Hello, and welcome to the first official Wright Virtual Visits episode of 2023. I'm your host, Anna Kaplan, Executive Director of the Wright Design Graycliff, and today we'll be virtually visiting a site I am very familiar with, the Martin House. Not only is this Wright site in my city of Buffalo, but I consider it a sort of sister site to Graycliff, as both properties were designed by Wright for the same family, the Martin family. The Martin House in the Parkside neighborhood of Buffalo was designed as Darwin and Isabel Martin's urban residence in the first decade of the 20th century, with Graycliff being designed about 20 years later as their summer home on Lake Erie, just a brief drive away. So, before I introduce my colleagues, I would like to take the time to acknowledge and thank the woman behind the scenes, Allison Wong and Forever Ready Productions. Forever Ready is again making Wright Virtual Visits possible by offering generous in-kind support and orchestrating the technological piece of what you see today. Thank you, Allison, and your crew for all that you do. Also behind the scenes is Eric Rogers from the Frank Lloyd Wright Building Conservancy, who has worked hard to pull together another exciting season of Wright Virtual Visits for you, and we'll be monitoring activity on Facebook today. So please post any questions or thoughts that you have along the way. I'll be posing questions that come up during the Q&A portion of today's program. So today we'll be meeting Jessie Fisher, the newly appointed executive director of the Martin House. Jessie started just weeks ago at the beginning of the new year. Jessie was raised in Buffalo and earned her master's in urban design and planning from the University of Washington. Prior to joining the Martin House team, Jessie served as executive director of Preservation Buffalo Niagara for close to 7 years. She's definitely earned a reputation in the Western New York community and beyond as an innovative thinker with a demonstrated history of ensuring the impact of her work reaches and benefits all communities and people. It's a true pleasure to introduce you, the Wright community, to Jessie. Welcome, Jessie, and thank you so much for being here today. I'm really excited about what you're going to be sharing with us. And before I pass it along to you, I want to give a quick shout out to Suzanne Badgley, the Martin House's director of marketing, who is doing the filming today and also helped us organize this episode. So thank you, Suzanne. It's a very gloomy day in Buffalo today, but Jessie, you're standing in what truly is an oasis. So I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks so much, Anna, and thanks to Suzanne and for Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation and everyone who supports the effort to bring all of these amazing sites to everyone across the country. So I appreciate all of you. Yes, it is day 29 on the job for me, so I hope you can all be forgiving if I check my notes occasionally, make sure I don't get anything wrong. And to make it extra special, exciting, we are open for tours today, and it's been kind of a busy day, so if anyone walks into our shoot, we'll roll with it, but we are a public site and we are open to the public, so one of the exciting things that we have to deal with. So yes, I am coming to you from Frank Lloyd Wright's beautiful Martin House here in the Parkside neighborhood of Buffalo, New York. It's a bit of a rainy day here, but this particular space is always a lovely one, no matter what the weather. So I think first we're going to pull up an aerial image so that those of you who aren't familiar with the site can understand kind of the magnitude of what we have here, which is 3 Wright designed homes plus 3 connecting structures, all sort of integrated into a Wright design landscape on about 1.5 acres of land here in the Parkside neighborhood, which at the time that this building was being built in the early 20th century was really almost a fully built out neighborhood. So the fact that this site was left open was really kind of serendipitous for everyone involved. When Wright accepted this commission, he talked about creating a domestic symphony with all these different interconnected spaces. And decades after the construction of the project referred to it as his opus. So we are really proud to be able to share this with folks. It's considered one of his most important early residential commissions and one of the first times he was asked to build multiple buildings on a single site. So all of that makes it important. In addition to the sort of painstaking restoration of the original buildings on the site, we actually had to rebuild several pieces that were lost in demolition in the 1960s, one of which we're standing in right now, which is the conservatory. The reason we were able to rebuild this space along with a couple of the other spaces with such accuracy and with such confidence is because this is also one of the most well documented of Wright's spaces. So all through the design conception, through construction, through the Martin's occupancy of this space, there are so many sketches, letters, and photographs. And in addition, Darwin Martin and Frank Lloyd Wright exchanged probably thousands of letters over the course of not just this building, but of all of their work together through the years, discussing pretty much every detail of the estate and often debating each of those details. So the Martins were avid gardeners, especially Isabel Martin, who was pretty well known for the beautiful bouquets and flower arrangements that she would make and share with others. And so when they began this quest for this family home, one of the things that they requested from Frank Lloyd Wright was a plant house, which they envisioned as kind of a working greenhouse. And of course, Frank Lloyd Wright couldn't just build a regular old run-of-the-mill greenhouse. He designed this amazing space that we're standing in, the conservatory. So the conservatory connects to the main house with a long open-air pergola, and I think we have a photograph of that to share with folks. So that's photo number 2, and you can actually get a sense from the very front door. You look down this long open-air pergola, and it terminates in this vista, the statue of a reproduction statue of Nike of Samothrace. And this was a favorite design motif of Wright's in this period. He uses it in several houses. But this is the first time he really uses a nearly full-size replica statue. And in keeping with the behind-the-scenes theme of this year, one of the interesting things I'll share with you is that the original replica statue that stood in this space was lost in the years of vacancy and demolition. However, because this space was so well designed or so well documented, we were able to figure out the name of the company in Boston, the Caproni brothers, who had the original molds, and they were bought by a company that is still in business today. So they had the original molds that the Caproni brothers used to build the original replica that stood in this space, and so we were able to use that original mold to make our replica statue, which stands here now. Standing 9 feet 6 inches tall and also on a 3-foot concrete plinth that you can see here, it also gives you a sense of the dramatic height of this particular space. Most of the Martin house really follows that prairie style design with this feeling of coming up out of the earth, of being one with the earth, and these really very intimate spaces. But this particular space really breaks away from that. It has this very vertical emphasis. It has these cathedral-like spaces. You can see all the shapes that are used in here really bring to mind more of a cathedral than he has tended to use. This space also, like each of the spaces at the Martin House, has its own distinct art glass pattern. Every building on the Martin House campus has their own distinct pattern, and so does the conservatory. Unfortunately, we do believe most of the originals, if not all of them, were lost in the demolition. But we have begun the process of recreating, again, very well documented space. We know what those windows looked like. And so we have started to create and install replica art glass windows in this space. And the ones that you can see in the tour were actually donated by our volunteers. Martin House is lucky to have an amazing volunteer corps. And not only do they like to help us keep that house in the condition that it needs to be, but they also enjoy helping us restore it. And so these windows were donated by our volunteers. And if anyone else out there feels the need to help us to recreate our stained glass windows, our art glass windows, we would welcome you to give us a call. That's something that we're interested in. So I think we can bring up photos 3 and 4 now. And this space really continues Wright's motif of sort of blurring the lines between the indoors and the outdoors. And Mrs. Martin really used the space to grow bougainvillea. She was very interested in orchids. She grew a lot of orchids. She would often actually cut them and give them away in her bouquets, which I've tried to grow orchids. She was obviously a better gardener than I was. She would just give them away. And then the house itself is filled with plants, and we would use those, and they would use this space to sort of rotate the plants in and out depending on the season, depending on how things were going in terms of flowering and all that kind of thing. So today, our volunteer gardeners really keep this space up and really keep it the way we think Isabel Martin would have used this space. And again, we can tell a lot of that from the just really incredible documentation that's happened on this site. So you can see, as Suzanne is panning the camera around, this space was really progressive for its time. It does have these hand crank systems for opening the skylights above us, and it also had a built-in watering system. So those were super helpful. And I think the Martins did really love this space. They did really use this space a lot. In lean years, when they had to sort of think about how much they were heating the house, this was an area that Darwin never scrimped on, so that Isabel could always have her beloved plants and that they would survive those cold Buffalo winters. But at the end of the day, it is not a working greenhouse, which is what the Martins had requested. So they sent him several letters through the years making that request, asking for, just a regular old working greenhouse. And in typical Wright fashion, he kind of ignores them. He's not that interested in it. So they finally go and buy a prefabricated 60-foot long greenhouse, and they install it just west of our carriage house, if you're familiar with our site. And Frank Lloyd Wright finds out, and he's a little miffed that someone messed with his design. And so over the course of several letters, he says, well, let me come out. Let me put some architecture on it, as he says. And Darwin Martin ignores him, and finally, as Frank Lloyd Wright keeps pushing him, he finally responds, sir, we cannot afford any more architecture. And we're sort of glad that he could afford more architecture. It resulted in spaces like this, and over the course of many, many decades, to have a patron like Darwin Martin through all those lean years, through personal troubles, really probably is the reason that Frank Lloyd Wright was able to go on and continue his career path. And so we're proud of that relationship between those two men, and we're excited to share this space with you. So we hope that if you haven't been, you'll come and visit us here at the Darwin Martin House and get to see this beautiful conservatory for yourself. Historic photo of the greenhouse. Oh, and I think we do have one final photograph, which is a historic photo of the non-Wright greenhouse that the Martins did purchase and put on the site. So if we want to pull up photograph number 5, people can take a look at that. So the Martins eventually ended up with the best of both worlds. They got a working greenhouse, which they really did use, and they got this beautiful space connected to their home.
Great. Thank you so much, Jessie. It really is amazing how bright and warm it is in there, even on this very gray day. Can you tell people how they can visit the Martin House and the conservatory in particular?
Yeah, so you can always go to martinhouse.org, which is our website, and we do run several tours most days of the week. They do sell out, so we definitely do recommend making a reservation. But if you happen to be at the site on a day and either there's no tours happening, that's the day the site is closed, or there just aren't tours happening that day, or you didn't make that reservation and they're sold out, we usually keep this space open to the public. If there's staff on site, usually this space will be open. There's no fences around the Martin House estate, so people use it as kind of a pocket park. You will often, see people who aren't necessarily here for a tour, walking their dogs and bringing their kids through the site. And this space is open whenever we're open. So strongly recommend taking the tour and learning it. But if you don't, just come in and spend a dreary day like today in this space.
Or if you've already been and you just want to come back and look at some details of the conservatory, popping in there. And it also is connected to your museum store, which is, a really nice opportunity to shop. Great gifts in there.
It is a great store. And then there's also there are also some virtual tours, including of this space on our website as well. So yeah, if you've been on the tour, but you kind of wanted to see a little bit more detail, that's another way that you can kind of check out this space as well.
And I noticed that, for those that are living in Erie County, New York, that the Martin House is offering 50% off of tours to all county residents this month. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. So we're really excited to get our folks from our community here as well, not just folks from far away. So we love when our neighbors come and visit us. So yes, all through the month of February, 50% off. And on February 22nd, we also have a fun Kids Day. We'll have self-guided tours of the house, so you can kind of go at your own pace, as well as a kids activity down in our educational center. So if you're in Erie County and you've got that school break and you're wondering what to do with the kids, bring them on over to the Martin House and use your 50% discount on that.
That's great. And actually, Graycliff is following your promotion with the same promotion in April. That's when our season really kicks off, and we're open 6 days a week. So Erie County, New York residents can tour for half off. And I strongly encourage that people visit both sites. We also have something exciting on the horizon that I want to give people a little sneak peek into, which is a joint experience with both of our sites. It'll be self-driving, and it includes not only tours of both properties, but lunch in between. And this will be something that we'll begin to offer monthly beginning this spring. So stay tuned for more details on that. That'll be a great way to experience both sites too.
We're really excited about that. We love when people get to see both houses and see the evolution of how we designed for the Martins and really get to know the family.
Definitely. Okay, I do have a couple questions here. So this may seem like a silly question, but what we're looking at, it's all real living plant life, correct?
Absolutely. We're very lucky to have, in addition to a fantastic facilities staff, we have an incredible volunteer gardening committee, and they are in here all of the time, making sure that everything's healthy. And much like Isabel Martin, switching things out depending on what the season is, and taking care of the plants in the house and in the conservatory. We also, as I mentioned earlier, have a Wright designed landscape, so they really do an incredible amount of work to keep up our exterior landscape. So we're very grateful for our volunteers here at the Martin House.
And Jesse, do you know if the plants in the greenhouse are similar to what the Martins would have had?
Yes, we have tried to make this as absolutely historically accurate as we can. Even on the exterior, I know we're not in the exterior today, but if you do come visit, some of the plants that are there now are actually, some of them are ones that were still on the site. Our beautiful European beech was the European beech that was planted when the Martins were here. And then a lot of the plants that are in the exterior, we were actually able to find descendant plants in the neighborhood where Isabel or Darwin had given away seeds, and we were able to actually propagate from those originals. So this is about as historically accurate a space as it can possibly be.
And it really is so beautiful.
We love it.
Another question I have for you, and Suzanne is panning in the perfect direction, because could you just talk briefly about the light bulbs? Seeing them now, that's what's all the rage today. These bare bulbs with the visible filaments. So is that what Wright designed to be in that space?
Yes, that is absolutely what Wright designed. And one of the things that we think is interesting about this house is, while most of the houses in this neighborhood that had been built would have been lit with gas, this house was designed right from the get-go to be all electrified. And so Wright really did design everything that was here, and everything that's here now is a faithful replication of those designs. And when you come into the Martin House itself, you'll see all the light fixtures that he designed. He really didn't leave anything to chance here. He has that funny phrase, client-proofed the house. So pretty much everything that you see here is what he selected, and we did as much as we could to make sure that it matches the original.
Yeah, I just love that fact about the house being electrified from the beginning. Do you know what that wood is?
This wood in here is cypress.
Great. It's beautiful.
It was really designed because of the sort of warm, damp temperatures in here to be, or the warm, damp climate in here to be something that is long lasting. Cypress is not repeated in other parts of the house, but in here, that's what was selected.
Great. Well, that's all the questions that we have for today. Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Well, just as we're talking about the landscape, I would also point out that, again, if you come on a day where for some reason you missed the tour or we're not open, there is a self-guided QRC tour that you can kind of log into for that exterior. So again, we always recommend coming and taking a tour, but if for some reason you can't, that's another option for folks to come and learn about the site.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Jessie.
Thanks, Anna. Thanks, everybody.
And thank you everyone for joining us today. Don't forget that the recording of this episode and all past episodes of Wright Virtual Visits are viewable right here on Facebook. And also the Frank Lloyd Wright Building Conservancy has organized them really well on their website. And this is also where the full lineup for 2023 will be posted imminently. Allison, I don't know if you can throw that website up there, saveright.org. Our next episode will be Thursday, April 20th, same time, same place, and we'll be touring the Krause House in Kirkwood, Missouri. We are going to be continuing our Wright Virtual Visits program monthly, continuing with this new format that will take us to a single public Wright site each month. We're going to be getting up close and personal with that site and aim to share with you insider tips on how to have a unique experience. The goal, as always, continues to be to encourage you to eventually seek out these Wright sites and visit them in person. It's dollars spent on tickets and in our gift shops and through memberships that help to sustain us all and allow us to continue to care for these important places and preserve Wright's legacy for future generations. So thank you again for all of your support, and thank you to the Martin House for having us today. And we look forward to seeing you at an upcoming episode of Wright Virtual Visits.